Welcome to World Travel Made Easy with Itinerary Boss, the podcast where we dive deep into insider tips, travel hacks, and the best ways to explore the world smarter. I'm your host, Ross. Whether you're a seasoned traveler or just starting your next getaway, you're in the right place. Before we dive into today's episode, I've got something special for you. Head over to itineraryboss.com to grab your free resource to get you started traveling smarter and quicker. And it's all yours to help you make your next trip unforgettable. Don't also forget to follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcast on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube so you never miss an episode. We've got new travel tips, interviews, and destination inspiration coming your way every Wednesday. And if you enjoy the show, don't forget to share it with a friend and give us a rating and review to help more people travel. Also, make sure to subscribe to the Itinerary Insider at itineraryboss.com, where you'll get all the latest episode releases, blog posts, as well as exclusive credit card sign-up bonuses, my travel must-haves, and travel hacks delivered straight to your inbox. Let's get you traveling smarter. And now, on to the show. Welcome back to another episode of World Travel Made Easy with Itinerary Boss. Today, we're going to be diving into how to plan the perfect destination wedding in Italy with Dave and Ashley, who I got the chance to meet years ago through one of our former guests, Ruba. And they recently, this past June, planned their Italy, went over to Italy, did their whole wedding. And I got the chance to work with them and help out with the additional itinerary after the wedding. So, really excited to have them on and talk through everything Italy weddings. How's it going, Dave and Ashley?
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Going good.
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to just get a little bit more background from you guys. Obviously, we're going to dive into all things Italy, but just a little background on travel from both your perspectives and really how do you start to love to explore new destinations?
So travel to me is really just finding a place and just immersing yourself in it. Specifically through food and drink. I think that's really how I like to explore countries, going to local spots, meeting local people. And I just feel like travel's really put me out of my comfort zone and really helped me grow as a person. So that's kind of why I do it.
Yeah, big part of my personality, I would say. If I didn't embrace travel the way I did a few years ago, I would have never met my wife. So I actually kicked things off. Used to be a professional yacht captain. I worked with a company called the Yacht Week, so we were doing flotilla sailing, and it was really cool. It was like one part, on one hand, you were bringing people and guests from all over the world, and you're really in the thick of it. On the other hand, you're almost like one of the locals because you're working and you're bringing business to some of these local businesses, and they loved having us. So you got to straddle both sides of that, of seeing and experiencing the world, partially as a tourist and partially as one of the locals. And you got to be part of that exchange of culture, and got to see it on a level that most people don't really get to see. A lot of times people just travel, they'll see a city for a day, maybe two. We got to experience these places for months at a time and meet people from all over the world. And I'd say that's probably my favorite part is just being able to see people at their happiest when they're traveling, and you get to experience the world from their perspective. And then you break away and you go your separate ways. And then if the stars align, you see these people again, and find other experiences.
Yeah, and the stars definitely aligned for you guys after.
Yeah,
Sure
So
did.
yeah, I love that story, and I mean it's pretty cool to talking before this. I know Dave was we're going to Thailand for our honeymoon, and it's always good to get your perspective because you read stuff online and it's hey go here, but you're like if you want to go where the locals go, and I did
yep,
this for years, right? Like I can give you some of those recommendations, so that that makes complete sense, and looking forward to chatting more offline when I see you guys
definitely.
here soon about that. But would love to, yeah, I mean, you guys talked about, a little bit about your background, how it's influenced you. But would love to just hear, why do you guys choose a destination wedding and what made you pick Italy?
I'll I'll start with why we chose a destination wedding and I'll let Dave talk about why we chose Italy. But I'm from the East Coast. I was born and raised in Connecticut. Dave was born and raised in California. So, I think we're going to do a destination wedding for some people, no matter what, if we were to choose one of our hometowns. But being that we met in the Bahamas and we got engaged in the British Virgin Islands, we were just kind of like, all right, we need to do destination weddings, pick a place where people can come and meet us and just celebrate our, wedding. But that's kind of what made us decide on a destination wedding. And we also wanted to make it fair, not choose California or Connecticut or New York or anything like that. We just wanted to kind of completely just choose somewhere different.
Yeah, and it's such a strong part of our personality, travel in general.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is when you do a destination wedding, it allows you the opportunity to spend more time with people. Whereas we've been to plenty of weddings in Los Angeles or Connecticut, like you just show up, you go to the wedding, and then that's it. Maybe there's like an after party or something along those lines, but people just kind of go their way afterwards.
Yeah.
The destination wedding for us was an opportunity to show our loved ones a piece of our life, like how we want to live our life and how we live our lives. And giving them an opportunity to experience the world from our perspective. And regrettably, you can't have a huge destination wedding, but it also makes it a little bit self-selecting, and the people that do come are the ones that are really excited to be there. And it's a lot to ask of people, right? A lot of people spend a lot of money to come to our wedding, but at the same time, we gave people an excuse, an opportunity to create a trip where either they started with our wedding or ended with our wedding. And for a lot of people, they would have either never had that experience or they were already looking for a reason to get out to Europe for the summer. And we were able to give them that opportunity to kick things off. So I think that's the why, right? And then the why Italy. Funny enough, we had just gotten engaged and I was doom scrolling Instagram as I do. And from my yacht week experiences, I've got a lot of friends that I still stay in touch with and I get to see their stories. And there's a girl who was at the wedding venue that we chose, Lake Garda. And I saw this place and I couldn't believe it. I looked so breathtaking and I asked her about it. And she said, hey, I know exactly why you're asking. Because she'd seen my post probably that I just got engaged. She's like, you should absolutely do it here. It's incredible. So for Ashley's 30th birthday, we went to Ibiza and then we went to our friend's wedding in Santorini. And Ashley asked me what I want to do for my birthday. I said, well, I want to go to Italy. Let's go check out this wedding venue. So we went to go check it out, and it was like magic. Like
it's the only venue
we only looked at one venue,
Yeah.
and then it was just like, holy shit, we're doing this. This is real. Like we sent the deposit payment, and I mean, it wasn't without a lot of what if we don't know the people we're sending the money to, or like you don't know if the money that you're sending is going to the right place, and like. It's all cash and wire payments, and
scary.
It's nerve-wracking, right? But the last reason I think worth calling out is that weddings are expensive, and it doesn't really matter where you do them; they're expensive everywhere. And the idea of getting the same value or paying the same amount of money but getting way more value out of it is just such an appealing thing.
Yeah,
so
I think we went for quality over quantity, and with destination weddings, not as many people can come than if you were to do it more local. So, we probably would have spent the same amount of money, but it was
dollar for dollar. I
mean,
what we got out of it was incredible. And both Ashley and I have experience working in events and curating experiences for people. So we were able to make the money go a long way, if you will, right? So we felt like we got a great value out of it, and more than anything, we were able to put on a show for our friends and family, and one that hopefully was memorable and gave them an opportunity to experience the world from our perspective.
Yeah, I mean, the venue looked unbelievable. I remember you guys sent me the pictures and then just watching the videos afterwards, how you guys came up in the boat, and just some of those were it was cool just watching it from afar. And I mean, those are some awesome birthdays, Santorini, Ibiza, as well as then saying, oh, let's go to Italy. But that's cool that you guys went and that was the only place that you saw, and then you said, hey, yeah, I love that. You guys, it definitely was, where your hearts were, and it worked out for the right reasons. I'm curious because I think when people start to plan destination weddings, right? And I have no idea. So it'd be good just to understand, like, some of that process around maybe wiring the money, cash, like can you kind of walk me through, and for people who are looking to potentially do that?
Yeah. So when we toured the venue, it was with the person who essentially owns the island. It's a family-owned island. And so, it was just a really
Yeah.
great experience. She showed us around. So she actually recommended a planner to us. So I would always go with a planner recommended by your venue, because I've heard of other people that found planners and, essentially got scammed. So I think that was one thing, we trusted her judgment. And so we went with the planner she recommended us.
And it's not a one size fits all, but what I
Right.
can say is that it just felt right from the get go when we went to go tour the venue. I would absolutely suggest like don't rush into just locking down a venue without seeing it. You definitely need to see the place, understand it, understand the people that you're working with, because there's really no backing out, right? Like
Right.
once you sign that contract, you send that wire. And that's part of the reason why a lot of these venues prefer wire transfers over credit card, is because they you can't just do a chargeback um, and escape that way, right? So you really have to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I would have to say about the venue, meeting the people that live there, like their family built the venue in the 1800s, and they still live there. This is all they do, and it didn't feel like we were getting sold on something. Like we felt like it was a privilege to be there, and like it felt really natural. And so for us, picking the venue was really straightforward, and that's kind of the advice I'd have for anybody is if you feel like you're getting pressured into a sale, if you feel like you're getting pressured into getting the more expensive flowers, or getting pressure into the more expensive vendor, like usually I would say that those are red flags. And there were definitely moments where we felt like we were paying a lot of money for things. But there was
being quoted.
Yeah, being quoted high, and we were able to work with the vendors to say, look, these are things that we want to spend money on. These are things that we prefer not to.
I think it's also important for us to do your own research. Like, when we got the initial quote, because she doesn't know our budget completely, our planner. So she was just like, okay, here's flowers, 17 grand. Here's a band, 10 grand. And we were just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, we back it up a little. Let's kind of, see what options we have. And when we told her, she like worked with us, provided other options, but we also had a friend that had planned her own Italian wedding. So
we had some baselines
Yeah,
to work off of.
we
Nice.
kind of lucked out there.
But there was like a happy medium too, and like you have to know the parameters that you're working within, because our venue is very challenging to work with from a logistics perspective, because you have to get the catering to the island, audio visual, and they operate like a tour business there outside of the wedding stuff that they do, right? So working with a vendor that they trust and know, there's a huge advantage to doing that, because they're able to navigate the island quickly and work with them. Flip side of that was certain things we were able to find our own options that we liked a little bit more than the options that were presented to us. Like for example, band, hair and makeup, stuff that didn't really have logistical challenges around it. We were able to kind of find opportunities to look for other things, but the vendors that we had, they were pricey, but we absolutely felt like we got what we paid for, and that's the best feeling, where you feel like you got what you wanted out of it.
There's a little bit of risk taking with it too. I mean, some of these places didn't have a ton of reviews and like info, but I think we just trusted the venue. We saw other people. We reached out to other people that got married there.
That was a huge thing. Ashley reached out to she searched on Instagram like people that had gotten married on that island, and that was really cool.
Nice.
So we were
Yeah.
able to reach out to them.
That's smart. Yeah. Reaching out to them to make sure, things are vetted. Yeah. And, we're going through a wedding planning right now. So it's, there's a lot of details and everything. But that's good. You guys did that. And it's just not going with that first quote and doing your own research. It sounds like is really just the gist of it all.
Exactly.
So I think too, since you guys did Lake Garda, for people who are wanting to potentially do that, or they're looking at Italian weddings, like overall, how was the experience, the venue, what were people's thoughts, and then also just like logistically, I know we talked about this, but just getting over there, right? Like how did people do that?
Yeah, I mean, a couple different things. Like the experience far exceeded our expectations. Like they went above and beyond to just put the day together. So that was incredible. And we can get more into that. But, getting there was definitely not easy, especially for people coming from LA. It's a 9 hour flight to Europe. So the biggest airport you can fly into is Milan, or you can fly into Venice, but Milan is more modern airport. And then from there, you really have to get a car or like either a car service. I know a lot of people did a transport van. A lot of people rented cars because there really isn't any trains or buses. There are, but it's not as easy to just like hop on and get there. But it's only an hour and a half drive, and it's a pretty drive, and it's on paved roads, so it's not like anything scary, but it definitely is a hike to get there.
Yeah, yeah, and I know from the East Coast at least, we from JFK they have directs to Milan, so it makes it a little bit easier. And then like from Charlotte and DC and other places on the East Coast, there's directs to Rome, so that would make it a little bit easier. But that's cool, and I mean, I think from a perspective of then after the wedding, like, do you feel like a lot of your guests made an additional trip out of it? And
Absolutely.
what do you feel like? Did most of them do northern? Was it some of them go down to the Amalfi Coast, or was it kind of a mix of both?
A vast majority of people, I'd say, did Southern Italy.
Hmm.
So for them, the Northern Italy experience was the wedding. So they
Yeah.
flew into Milan. They did a few days in Lake Garda, and then they went down to either like Verona or to Tuscany for a day or two, to Florence for a day or two, and then spent maybe like a week plus in Southern Italy. For us, like we went to Sardinia. I think there might have been a couple people that went to Sicily.
Hmm.
My brother and his family went to his wife's family. They went to Slovenia. So people were kind of all over. It was cool to see like the variety of trips that people took, and it was very focused around the individual. Like some people really like mountain stuff, so they went to the
Yeah.
mountains. Some people like
Hmm.
beach stuff. They went to the beach. My mom went to south of France with her childhood friend, which was really awesome.
Nice.
Um, so people got to, yeah, people got to do what they wanted to do, which is really cool.
A lot of our guests, especially my family, including my parents, had never been to Europe or Italy. So, it was cool to kind of be the reason that they got to explore, the country. But I think that's why there was a lot of like Rome and Amalfi Coast and
Yeah.
Venice, and everyone was kind of seeing each other after the wedding and bumping into each other in places. So that's why we were like, let's do Sardinia. It's kind of off the beaten path, and not as many people know about it.
And,
So
for a lot of people, always recommend, your first time going to one of these countries, like you should see the greatest hits,
for
right?
sure,
Mhm.
yeah.
If you only had a week, you got to go see the one or two things that are just incredible
Yeah.
they're incredible for a reason. But going back to Italy, I mean, my desire to go to one of the larger cities is not really there.
Yeah.
I love the small towns, like the little villages, and that's really the beauty. I mean, you don't really see this too much in the States, but in Europe, you could literally just end up on a highway and you end up in some village, and next thing you know, you're having the best
Yeah.
food you've ever had in your life. You're having some of the most amazing wine, and it's like €1, €2 for a glass of wine. It's €10 for some of the best pasta you've had in your life. But then you might end up in, somewhere in Positano or somewhere in Rome. You're spending hundreds of dollars,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and thinking, man, like why did I do this?
Yeah.
There's nothing special about this. Like Venice is notorious, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
people go to Venice and they're like, wow, this place, Italy is so expensive, and it's just a completely different experience.
Yeah, no, I mean, well said. And I think, like you said, when people haven't gone, it's definitely, you got to go to Rome, right? If you haven't
Yeah.
been, like our first time going to Greece, couple, month back, we had to do Santorini, we had to do Mykonos, and both were expensive. But our favorite island was Milos because it was half the cost. It was not as
Yeah.
touristy. Walk
Oh,
around,
yeah.
everything, get that actual like island feel. So couldn't agree more.
That's
And then
awesome.
Ashley, for your parents, I mean, they hadn't been over there, or do they now have the itch to go back, or are they one and done?
I mean, they're big Caribbean sandals, all inclusive, like kind of people, and they love that. And I understand why, because I love that too.
Yeah.
It's just a different kind of vacation. And they went on vacation with their really experienced Italian friend who has done Italy, plenty of times, speaks, broken Italian, and I think they jam packed a little too much into the itinerary. So
I feel like that's like the
for sure,
that's the rookie mistake, right?
Yeah.
Like,
for sure. But and it's a different, you have to get used to the different kinds of hotels, and just Europe is just different from America in so many ways, and in good ways and bad ways. And I just think towards the end they were just tired, but they loved the food. They did have an incredible time. They want to explore other European countries, but
Yeah.
they definitely have a sandals trip booked first.
At
Yeah.
least they enjoyed it. But yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
when you get to Europe your first time, it's completely different. Sometimes you don't have AC. Sometimes things are a lot smaller if you're bigger.
If you're
So
tall,
it's
yeah, and especially like the beds too. Like the beds
Oh
are
yeah.
not usually up to our standards.
yeah,
So like people are having a hard time getting some sleep, you're jet lagged, and
yep,
then on top of that, you're like rushing to go from one city to the next.
yeah.
And it can be a lot for some people.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But like you said, Dave, it's sometimes when you haven't done it a lot, and I was victim to and definitely, made those mistakes early on. It's like you're like, all right, I gotta do all these things in 3 days, and I'm gonna be so exhausted now. It's like if you have 3 days, spend a day and a half, maybe two doing that stuff, and then just
Yeah,
relax. You're on vacation.
exactly.
Exactly.
I think
Yeah.
it'd be good too, just I mean, when you are planning out a wedding, you're in Italy, right? Did you all incorporate different local Italian culture or traditions into the wedding? And then what did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say we did any traditions in particular. I mean, I think the venue we chose was so rich in culture that we didn't need to. It's
Mhm.
like the
Yeah.
whole experience, like coming in on the boats, like the old Italian Riva boats for the lake. The food was very local. The caterer was based in that region. We got to incorporate like the band that we had play. Like they were playing a lot of can you still hear us, Ross?
Yeah.
Yep. The band was playing sort of like bossa nova, like Italian flavor of bossa nova, and so we were able to have that Italian wedding without, we didn't do any like the traditions, like for example, like the five almonds or anything like that,
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Um,
we like for our welcome party, we picked a pizza place. We wanted to do like a pizza party,
some of the best pizza I've ever had in my life, just this random
Italian
pizzeria
band.
overlooking the lake.
Yeah.
Nice. What
It
was,
really is. Sorry,
I was going to say, what was the name of it? Do you remember?
AI
Yeah,
pizzeria.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
It's a
And
random
it's
name.
super random, but I mean that's the thing is like sometimes if you're going for this Italian experience and you end up with this Italian experience, you end up with kind of like this, that's what they want you to think that like the experience is, like the touristy experience. Whereas if you really are able to find the more local type of experience, then you get the real one. And
Yeah.
that's I think when we talk about travel, that's all it comes down to is, are you getting the sort of off the shelf experience, or are you getting the one that's something that is a little more authentic, and you're incorporating it into your worldview.
Mhm.
I think I wanted to also just call out like the hotel that we booked was, we got so incredibly lucky with the way that all worked out, because we were able to book out such a large portion of the hotel. All of our guests stayed in the same place. It was almost as if it was part of the wedding experience, right? So everyone's in the same place, everyone's going to the same place. We're meeting up in the hotel bar.
That's a one. Oh, go
And
ahead.
we got so lucky that the manager was excited to have us. She was could have gone two directions, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
loud rambunctious group, like you guys need to keep it down. Instead, it was very much like, we loved having you guys. Like, what can we get you? We're so excited to have you. Other guests might have been complaining, but they did a good job managing them and saying like, hey, look, we have this wedding here, and
Yeah.
Awesome.
you know,
One thing I would like to add, like a piece of advice, at least where we were, but I'm pretty sure this is common for most of Italy and Italian weddings, is they don't really do room blocks.
yeah,
And so we had a friend that kind of like helped us out. She lives here and she planned her own Italian wedding. And so what we did is we purchased like all the rooms ahead of time because there was a really lenient cancellation policy, just because the rates were going to go up closer to the
Mhm.
wedding. And that's how we did it. We had to like pre-purchase and
yeah,
reserve them all and then transfer the reservations to the names because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to do a room block. They would want us to do buyouts of hotels, which was
Yeah.
ridiculously
crazy
expensive. So
prices.
that's one thing to really try to get ahead of. I mean, they won't even let you start booking in Italy sometimes until like, after the busy season's over and all that. So you have to be patient, but definitely know, what you're doing as far as hotel rooms and Airbnbs and
Yeah,
such.
definitely a shout out to our friend who helped us put that together, because it was a creative solution. And for people that don't know this about Italy, like they don't even open up bookings a year out. So like Ashley's dad's a big time planner, and we told him that we put the down payment on the venue, and he started freaking out because he thought the
No
hotel was sold
rooms.
out. There's no rooms available. It's just sold out on hotels.com, but
They just do things slower there.
you know, they don't just list the inventory on hotels.com until it's ready. And then
Hmm.
our hotel was interesting because they didn't know if it was going to be open for the season, and so we took a gamble. We took a credit card and reserved all the rooms, but we didn't have to pay anything because in Southern Europe, at least in Italy, a lot of hotels that are independently operated will let you do that. You just book the room and then you pay when you get there. So it was a lot of logistics. You know, I'm sure all these hotels have really old like software systems on the back
Yeah.
end. So there was a lot of like, hey, I don't know, I didn't receive confirmation about my room or whatever like that. But you know, the logistics is the hardest part about doing a destination wedding, and it came together really nicely.
Mhm.
I think we only had one messed up room, and that was Grandpa's. You know, but one out of like 85 rooms. You know, so
Yeah.
they
That's
made it work.
awesome.
Yeah,
Well, no, I mean that's a lot of, but again, it just goes back to like the planning, the preparation,
yeah.
getting creative. So that's, see, I didn't know that about, right, what you guys having to do that. So that's really smart. And the fact that, I mean, most hotels usually are have that cancellation policy when you get there. You just
Yeah.
have
Yep.
to pay. So that's smart. But I can only imagine the transferring the rooms and all that. That had to be a lot of work, but
It was a
it's
ton. Yeah,
yeah.
but we had help.
Yeah.
But the hotel looked, and it was Hotel Garda, correct? Is that the name of it?
Grand Hotel Gardone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. For people who
They're
potentially want to
actually
go there.
turning it into a Hilton, I've heard. So I think it is actually closing after this year, but we'll see what happens.
It's yeah, I mean it's rich in history, so I doubt they're
Yeah.
gonna like detract from it. It's just more so that they're gonna do things to make it more of a Hilton type of property, but like one of their like signature type of properties where it keeps the history and the aesthetic.
Gotcha. Well, hey, at least you guys got before it became a
One,
corporate.
I
yeah,
know.
Yeah.
one last hurrah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I think it'd be good too. Just, that's extremely helpful, just diving into those logistics. But if there's any other, I mean, you have shared a ton of tips, but
Mhm.
anything else specific around Italy, and planning ahead for a destination wedding? You shared some of those around specifically that hotel, but if there's anything else like that you learned that you didn't know about throughout the process, that people should be aware of or start to plan out well in advance.
Also book your transportation. A lot of our friends waited to the last minute, of course. So, it was hard for them to get vans and shuttles to the venue or to like where the wedding was without paying, a fortune. So a lot of them are renting cars and kind of like scrambling last minute. So, at least book it out a few weeks out. I would recommend. And then having really communicating with your guests, having a website, emailing them. We used a messaging service. I wouldn't recommend it, but I know there's other ones out there. But just to stay on top of guests, text them updates about when the events were happening, creating WhatsApp groups, like finding a way to communicate with your guests so everyone knows what's going on. Because a lot of people don't travel the world and have that experience when you do destination weddings. So
Yeah, just helping people manage expectations that, you know, it's not so much that like can things go wrong? Like a lot of things will inevitably go wrong. And so like if you're used to travel and you're used to traveling adventurously, you know that these things will happen and you can pivot pretty quickly. For some people that don't travel a lot, that could be pretty jarring. So just communicating, right? And then like guests that you know need a little bit more attention, making sure that they feel comfortable. You're going out of your way to make sure that they have the resources. Because some people are super independent and they're just going to show up. And
Yeah.
other people are, you know, for them, this might be the first time that they've traveled internationally.
Yeah. And we created a Google sheet. We got this from another destination wedding we went to, but just a spreadsheet where everyone can enter their flight details so that they can coordinate travel together. So it's cheaper and they're not doing it alone.
Yeah.
So that was
Some
really
of the most memorable friendships that came out of our wedding were people that had never met before and they ended up splitting a car.
That's
Um,
awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, so this is my friend, and they're like, oh yeah, no, I drove to your wedding with them, So
Yeah.
it's just funny, like we're just now hearing about all these connections and friendships that got made at our wedding because of that.
That's so cool. And that's, I mean, that's what comes out, I feel like, of a destination wedding is you're out, people are outside their comfort zone. So they're gonna, explore, do things they may not do if they were just doing it locally. So that's awesome to hear. I think too, just when you guys planned your wedding, just understanding kind of balancing, because it is a lot of travel and people get there, different festivities, or was it more, we're going to have a welcome party and then we're just going to have the wedding? Like, did you guys make sure you had an itinerary throughout when it actually was the wedding? And I know we did, afterwards you had something for guests, but just like during that weekend wedding, it'd be good to understand how you created that experience for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think we wanted, obviously, the wedding was the main event, and we wanted to do a welcome party just to kind of kick things off, get people excited, get people, familiar with each other. But we opted out of doing a farewell brunch. I know a lot of, destination weddings will do that, but to be honest, we didn't want to get up. We just didn't know how the day would go, and we didn't want to make people be somewhere, and it just, we didn't want the logistics of it. But, it was really good to have the welcome party, and the wedding was spectacular. And then so many people were hanging around on Sunday. So we just like had an impromptu boat day. And then we did a huge dinner reservation that one of our friends set up, but it was kind of all on a
Absolutely
whim.
unbelievable. Like
Yeah.
I've never seen a restaurant pull together a 60-person dinner
Wow.
like with no notice before, but they were so happy to have us. Our friend Timmy walked in at like basically at noon and said, "Can you guys host 60 people for dinner?" And they said, "Yeah, sure. Come on over." And that was super, super fun. But
I mean,
we didn't, so like to Ashley was saying, like we didn't have plans for the day before the welcome party. We didn't have plans for the Sunday. And what ended up happening was people just showed up, and because everyone stayed in the same place or within the same like vicinity, people just got together and they got together at the hotel bar. And we it was almost like we had too much fun going into the
Yeah.
actual thing. So
yeah.
could also be a function of the group of people we brought together,
Yeah.
right?
You guys are chill. You guys
Yeah,
don't, you,
but it really felt like we got all the stressful stuff out of the way at the beginning. So Ashley and I got in 3 days before, 4 days before.
Yeah.
She took care of like the bridal stuff, like the spray tan and nails, like the first day when we got in, and then we stopped at the
Get,
grocery store so we could make gift bags for people.
yeah.
She hand wrote 96 notes going into the wedding, like on the plane.
It was
Um,
like 50. It wasn't that
okay, yeah,
many.
but there
96
was just
people.
But we did for
yeah,
every guest or like pair of guests, like couple, we wrote a personal note because we
That's
figured like
awesome.
travel, across, the pond to come see us and celebrate us, and the least we can do is like thank them with a handwritten note. And it was a
so
nice touch. Yeah.
but so we got all that stuff out of the way, and I honestly, like, you got 2 years of planning. You're not going to stress the day before the wedding or 2 days before the wedding, right? Like at that point you just got to trust the process. You're along for the ride, and give Ashley a lot of credit. Like we were just chilling. So many people were shocked to see us just hanging out and having a good time, and it just felt really natural.
Yeah. And getting there
Yeah.
a few days early helps you adjust to the time zone because, everyone always gets messed up by that no matter what. So,
Yeah.
it was good to have that adjustment. But
So
Yeah. It was just,
besides that,
once you hit
yeah.
that plane, you really don't want to have to do anything more.
And then just tips wise, like being super easygoing and being personable goes a really long way, right? Like the hotel staff loved having us, even though I'm sure many of the hotel guests probably didn't appreciate us very much.
Yeah.
But I think it was just because everyone was super gracious and really happy to be there, and no one was just demanding things and being entitled. And that's the other thing I would say traveling in Europe is really important, is don't have like expectations that people are going to bend over backwards for you. It's
Yeah.
just show up and have a good time, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and go with the flow.
yeah, 100%. And that's one of my favorite parts about going over there is it's
Yeah,
very lax. The service is great and everyone's just living in the moment. And if you take advantage of that, I mean, you're going to have a good time. But that's, yeah, I
yeah,
can only imagine after 2 years of planning, when you got there, the last thing you wanted to do is stress. You're like, we're in Italy. Look at this
Yeah.
yeah.
beautiful lake. We're just going to chill. We have all our best friends around us. So I'm glad everything went as planned and you guys had a great wedding, and the pictures and videos again looked amazing.
Yeah. it was incredible. We still have to go through our photos. We got them, but we are only about halfway through because you want to be in like the right mindset and you have to
Yeah.
sit down together. So
Yeah.
still more to come.
Awesome. Well, I think before we wrap up, would just love to hear, you've provided a ton of value, a ton of different tips and tricks. Any last words for people if they are, going to Italy, if they're going on yacht week, if they're going, and we
Yeah.
could do it, and we could do a whole
We
nother
can do another.
episode on.
I'll come back and talk about
Yeah.
yacht anytime.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of people interested in that. Everyone's always like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
do yacht week. I'll be like, all right, I got a guy who knows the ins and
Yeah.
outs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
anything else, yeah, I think would just be good.
Yeah, I think for me, everyone always is like, it's just one day, it's just one day, but it really isn't. It's a whole process. And for us, I think we planned for a year and a half to 2 years, something like that,
Yeah.
and enjoy that process because, that's part of it. And seeing it all come together is so rewarding. I have no regrets. It was just so beautiful to see it come together. It fully exceeded our expectations, and the hard work does pay off, but just try to enjoy like every moment of it because you only get to do it once, hopefully. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that would
And
be mine.
and then from my side, I think so many people are caught up with weddings being just part of the process. Like it's a thing that you need to do. And from our perspective, it was more like we're gonna spend all this money on having a party. We should make an experience out of it.
Yeah,
And most importantly, don't forget to have fun ourselves. And I can tell
right.
you, it was like the next morning waking up feeling like, oh my God, we pulled that all together, right? Because there's definitely like this like thought in your head as you're getting on this plane going, oh my God, what if these vendors aren't who they said they were? And like 95 people are coming to Italy and like what if there's no hotel and like you're stop, back it up, realize all the steps that you took to prepare and make sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's and verifying everything is what you expected it to be. And then at some point, like I said, you just got to trust the process and lean into it and have some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said. I mean, we're in the thick of things. We got a couple
Yeah.
months until we're at that stage, and I think it's, you guys said it well, and not everyone's going to know every second that you lined up throughout the wedding, and if one thing goes wrong, it's like don't stress it,
No
enjoy
one
it,
Yeah.
will.
and
Yeah.
We're the only ones that notice that little things happen and like you tell people the next day and like, wow, I had no idea.
exactly.
And one more thing, don't forget to eat on your wedding day. Cause like we were so caught up in saying hi to people and having a good time that
No, I mean, I didn't forget to eat, but you're being shoved in so many directions. Lean on your bridal party. I didn't
Yeah.
do that enough. Like, ask your bridal party to bring you the snacks. I didn't get to try the fried sage. I didn't get to try all the desserts. So, that was like one of like
we would ask people the next day, like, what was your favorite part? And people would be like, oh, it was the pasta. And we're like, don't tell us that. We're like, we didn't get the
yeah,
pasta.
use your bridal party if you have one. Like, that's what they're there for, to help
Yeah.
you and to make the day go by smoothly. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just have fun with it.
All right, I'm
Yeah,
going to take that
traditional.
advice. I'm taking that advice and going full steam ahead the next couple months. And
Yeah, good
definitely,
luck to
and
you.
definitely
Yeah.
eating.
When's the big day?
March 29th,
Nice. That's so
Yeah.
exciting. And you're
It's-
doing it
yeah.
where?
Charlotte.
Awesome.
awesome.
That's gonna be great.
Yeah, it feels like it's forever away until you get to the day and you're like, holy cow, it's here.
Yeah.
It just sneaks up on you.
It does.
Yeah, we'll see. We're excited, but appreciate you guys coming on.
Thanks
I
for
loved
having
watching
us.
from afar, seeing it all. And I know we're recording here October 11th, but I might see you guys here in a couple weeks. So I'm
Yeah,
looking forward
we
to
love
that.
that. All right. Looking
right.
forward to it.
Thanks,
All
Ross.
right.
Thanks for
Bye.
having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give us a rating and review so we can reach more people who are trying to travel. Also, make sure you give us a follow and hit the subscribe button. That way, you're not missing out on any of the upcoming episodes that come out every Wednesday. If you want to sign up for any of the exclusive credit card sign up bonuses that we mentioned, we'll link those within the show notes. And then that way you can get started on your points and miles travel hacking journey quicker. Tune in to next week's episode. Peace.